What's up? My first live. I decided to play around with some different ways of playing with YouTube. So I didn't tell anybody about this live. So it's probably just going to be me and the black hole of the internet, which, it's fine. It's fine. It's actually easier that way sometimes. So yeah, I'm just gonna chat for a bit. I think I'm gonna do like a live once a month. I am going to pick a specific day and time to do it. I'm thinking I'm gonna do it the last Monday of the month at like 5 p.m. That's what I'm thinking, but I can't do it at the last Monday of the month next month. So I'm going to say for next month, I am going to do my live on, I'm looking at my calendar, the 31st, Wednesday, the 31st of August at 5 p.m. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Kai, in case you stumble upon this in a replay and have no idea who I am. My channel is Stephanie Danger. She's the alter ego for women in midlife, really for any woman in general, but specifically for me, women in midlife. Um, I like to think of her as a cheerleader for being a little rebellious. And that's kind of what this live is going to be about. I wanted to talk about the obligation to feel like we have to like everybody. So I'm going to share with you that I dislike between 94 and 95% of people. Now, depending on how you look at this, it's not that bad, but I would like to explain. I find that from a very young age, I don't know if you remember, like when you're in your teenager, like we're kind of taught like, oh, you're supposed to like everybody. And I kind of feel like that seems unrealistic. Like if you stop for a second and go, yeah, everybody must like me. It's just a little off because how is that possible? You can't possibly like everybody, right? So I tell my friends and family all the time that I dislike 94 to 95% of people. They don't seem to mind, but that may be because they fall into the 5 or 6% of people that I do like. So in a way, it's a little bit of an ego boost for them. They're like, oh, I fell into the 6%. Yay for me. But I do want to break it down so that you can maybe think about disliking people in a different way. I feel like we all need community and a sense of connection with other human beings. That's just part of who we are as human animals. So I'm not suggesting like, that you cut everybody off and you don't interact with anybody. But I do think being a little more discerning about the people you let into your inner circle can never hurt. But just so you can look at disliking 94 or 95% of people differently, I looked up a few numbers before I decided to do this live. And now we're going to do some mathematics with my numbers. So here's my little calculator. It turns out there are I got to do it this way, otherwise it won't let me do the numbers. 7,960,000 people. That's a big ass number. Now, if we get rid of we'll do 94%, minus 94% of those people, you are left with 477,600,000 people. So even if you dislike 94% of people in the world, you still got 477 million to hang with. Okay, let's break it down a little smaller. There are 332,403,650 people in the United States, should you live in this country. Okay? If we get rid of 94% of those people, you are left with 19,944,219 people. I mean, that's a good chunk of people. Okay, one more. In Los Angeles, where I live, there are 12,488,000 people. Minus, I'm gonna say 95% because I think that's a little more honest to the percentage of people that I dislike. So if I get rid of 95% of people, I'm still live with 624,400 people. I'm fine with that. So, anyways, that's just my, I feel like people think, oh, if I dislike people, then there'll be no people. There'll be people. There are more than enough people around that even if you probably only like 1% of the people on this planet, you'll be okay. Now, I do want to clarify. No, actually, first, what I want to do is give you an example. So I'm an introvert by nature. I'm like a social introvert. So I'm not like weird or anything when I get around people, but it takes a lot to get out of my house. Like I'm comfortable in here. And so I have to really have a conversation with myself to get out. But because of the pandemic, I kind of fell into my introversion a little more than I would have liked to. And so lately I've been like, you need to get out. You need to start rebuilding community, locally. I have really great friends, but none of them live here. So I forced myself out this weekend to an event that was happening in a park with a lot of women around my age. It was lovely. And I went specifically with the idea of like, it would be great to start meeting like 3 or 4 women that I can maybe hang with one of them once a week, right? So if I have 4 like local girlfriends, one each week, then I think that is a good fill for me as far as socializing. So I went specifically with the intention of like, I plan to meet at least one woman here that I resonate with. And it seems like we're on the same page in things that I care about. So I went and kind of just listened to my intuition. Speaking of which, there is a video I did recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, on intuition that I highly recommend. I believe intuition can save the world. It can definitely create magic in your life. So highly recommend. I will put it up here after I finish live streaming. And if you're watching this replay. Anyway, so I went, kind of said like, asked my intuition to guide me to the women. We had like 3 different picnic tables and people were on the grass. So I was like, which group of women should I go sit with? And so I went and sat with these 3 women who were sitting on a blanket on the grass. And the woman next to me, we are like on the same page with a lot of things. She's fiery. I can't remember a couple other things we talked about that were similar. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm digging on this chick. I could hang with her. We'd be good. So, yeah, we chatted. I laughed. I didn't even initiate anything. And then I get a message from her later on that day that she would love to have tea or go for a hike. Win for me. So that is my example of how you can dislike a lot of people, but still have nice interactions with people and have a fulfilling life as far as being social. Okay, so the one caveat that I do want to acknowledge, not liking 95% of people does not mean you get to be a dick to those 95% of people. For whatever reason, you may not like them. Some you may just not click with. A small percentage may actually be assholes. I actually think you need to be kind, especially to the assholes. Usually assholes are in pain in some way, and that's the reason they're behaving like an asshole. So the point of this is dislike 95% of people. With those 95% of people, you keep them on your outer edge periphery of your life. None of those get access to your inner circle. But should one of those people be in need in some way or need support, as a person who dislikes the majority of people, you are still obligated as a decent human being to help that person. That's my view of it. We always are of service to all of human beings, even the worst ones, honestly. Sometimes it can be hard, but I really do believe in that. I read somewhere recently that an elder, a female elder, had told her granddaughter that she didn't need to be sweet, and that when you're sweet, you end up with flies all over you. So I thought that was funny. Um, I'm not that worried. I actually really like all people, but most people I enjoy learning about them and then saying farewell and letting them, yeah, stay out there. So there's my thoughts on you not having to like people. I wanted to say this. One, what happens when you get into midlife is you do stop caring anyways. So you can also stop caring if other people like you. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. People don't like you. Don't take it personal. Not everybody is supposed to like you. It's okay. As long as you got some people in your world that like you, it's all good. Even if you only have one, really, you only need a couple of really good friends that are there for you, ride or die. So don't worry about it. So if you're younger, I'm just telling you, don't worry about it. And when you get into midlife and beyond, you'll be like, yeah, it doesn't matter anyways. I say this also for women in particular, because we are trained very early on to always be nice and to smile. And I watch a little more cable news than I should, but this really weird thing I started noticing is that when analysts come on, to chat with the host of whatever show, I find like a good chunk of the female analysts will smile when they're being introduced and all of that. And a good chunk of the male analysts will not. And I just thought, oh, that's so interesting. And I think it's tied to this social conditioning we get bombarded with as women to like smile. I mean, tell me if, please, in the comments, have you ever, as a woman, gone out looking cute and experienced a man going, smile? You look so pretty when you smile. So, we get the message across the board. And I guess the point of this live is to give you permission to, one, not like people if you don't want to, and two, to not care if people like you. It is a very freeing experience. Please share your thoughts in the comments if you're watching the replay. One other thing I wanted to share with you, because it also ties to that that intuition video I mentioned. Usually what happens when I script out and shoot a video is the subject of that video becomes really prominent in my daily life. But this has actually been happening for the last couple of months, which is, I keep getting, well, actually, my suggestion is follow weird signs, just in general in the world. When things show up that seem, that's weird, why did that happen? Or that came into my world like 3 times in a row. All of those are messages from the universe. And they are little pokes for you to pay attention, slow down, and see if there's some sort of guidance embedded in those messages. So I'm going to give you an example of what message I've been getting for like the last 2 months, which is hawks. Now, this is, I feel a little crazy because I live in the middle of a big city. So nature things like hawks, you wouldn't think would be a message that I come across. But I literally this morning, I was sitting here writing and all of a sudden I heard it. Now, if you know anything about hawks, they fly really high above the sky. Like, I don't know how high, but crazy high, because that's how they look for prey, right? They have the most amazing eyesight and they go really, really high up and then look down to see where some potential prey is that they can swoop down and grab up. So the fact that I can hear them all the way up there, to me, is kind of what, actually, let's see if I can find the sound of a hawk. Let's search. hawk sound. Actually, we should look up symbolism of hawks too. Okay, here we go. Let's see. You hear that? Now imagine you're sitting here, but you hear way high up. The other day I was washing dishes, same thing. I hear it way high up. Other experiences with hawks. When I go for my walks in the neighborhood, which I love, another video I have on loneliness. You can, I think I'll put it up here where you can kind of get a sense of like my neighborhood and where I walk as I experience my interactions with hawks. So this was at the very beginning of when the hawks started showing up in my life. And so I'm up in the hills in my walk and I see one sitting like on the fence of like someone at the front of someone's house. But this is like I said, they're usually high up flying around. And even if they're like perched somewhere, it's usually really high up in a tree. So the fact that this one was like maybe 8 feet off the ground, just sitting on a fence, that's like not normal. Anyway, so anytime I'm walking in my neighborhood and I see nature, meaning any kind of animals, I stop, right? Because I kind of want to have an interaction with them. And so I feel like if I stop and get still, they might hang around a little bit and we can connect. I just find it a fun thing to do. So I see this hawk sitting there and they're big. So I just I pause and like, I'm just looking at it. And then I hear behind me, someone else is also walking the neighborhood and they come around the corner. So as I look back, I turn back this way and that hawk takes off and it flies straight towards me and over my head. Like I almost had to duck. I was afraid it was going to come straight for me. That is a not normal behavior. So actually, as I'm telling you this, I've looked up the symbolism of hawks a couple of times, but then I kind of brush it off. And I feel like it's the fact that it even showed up again this morning. I'm supposed to pay more attention. I actually have a book. I have a book that I've had for years. It's called Synchronicity, Signs, and Symbols. I love this book. It's actually really cool. What's this on the back? It's actually really cool because it really kind of, I have to reread this book. This is funny because I'm actually struggling a little bit with like feeling like nothing's happening, nothing's moving, things I'm trying to get done. And I open up to a page that says, sometimes we get many no's while the universe is getting something much better for us. And we need to be willing to stay open and pay attention when the right thing does come along. Okay, well, let that be a message for me, and maybe someone watching this replay, let it be a message for them too. Moving on from the rest of this book, in the back, they have a whole list of like different animals, objects that when they come into your world in an interesting way, you can look them up and see what they mean symbolically. So, hawk, symbolic messenger, represents the soul in many cultures. Victory, a sign that tells us to pay attention to communication. Interesting. I feel like some that I looked up online were also really interesting too. Let me see if I can find one. Hawk symbolism. Let's see here. Yeah, I find it so interesting. And if you become aware of it, then, more of those messages will show up in your life because the universe will then realize, oh, they're paying attention now. So I'm going to send more. Because I feel like, especially when we get into like fear-based states of mind, which can happen when a lot of things are wonky, like the Great Awakening or war, stuff like that, then, we can start making a lot of decisions from a fear-based place, which isn't always the best. And if you try to stay open to like, let me get some intuitive hits and messages that can help give me guidance in the direction I'm supposed to be going in right now, it can open up magical and unexpected opportunities. I'm like sweating up a storm. I can't tell if it's a hot flash or I'm just hot from my first live. Okay, hawks. When hawk swoops in as your spirit animal, it's time to open your awareness wide. Hawk as totem animal belongs to those who can see the whole picture. Let's see. It says, when hawks swoop into your life, be ready for a whole new level of awareness developing in your mind and spirit. Hawk bears observation skills and broad perspectives on his wings. You could not ask for a better companion if you've been working on your overall insights. This is actually really interesting because I'm going through a period in my life, like I feel like it's a huge transition where a lot of things I believed in, the values I lived my life by, things I thought were important, a lot of those are like disintegrating before my eyes. I'm like, none of those matter anymore. And I haven't quite figured out what is supposed to take the place of those things. So the fact that this hawk has been showing up for 2 months now is actually speaking even more to me. And I think what I'm going to do is maybe do some meditation on it and kind of like literally ask the hawk for very specific guidance. One other symbolism experience I want to share with you is like probably 20 years ago now when I was really struggling. I just come out of a really messed up relationship and I was in a bad way. And it was right around the time I think that I got this book. And I started seeing coyotes. And so I looked it up in this book. I can remember this like it was yesterday. I looked it up in this book because I was like, why do I keep seeing coyotes and when I'm feeling like crap? And coyotes, where is it? It's actually really funny. Coyote, often called the trickster. Coyote is a sacred symbol. Usually he's telling you to develop your sense of humor and to learn to laugh at yourself. Don't take yourself too seriously. Okay, let me tell you. I literally, after that, every time I saw a coyote, I took it as a message that I needed to lighten up. And they would be everywhere. And the really fascinating thing about that is when you open yourself up to signs and symbols, for the most part, I would say, sometimes you might get a sign that's a warning, but for the most part, they're kind of here to uplift you. And I swear when I would be feeling crappy and then come along a coyote and it's like, oh yeah, lighten up. I could feel myself being lifted energetically, just a little bit, and it's actually a nice, comforting feeling to feel like, I don't know, you're being supported in some magical, mystical way. Okay, where are we at? Oh, I've been live for like 22 minutes. I think that's more than enough, Kai, for my first live. This channel is all about rebelling against the status quo, learning to use your intuition to create magic in your life, developing a healthy relationship with fear, and basically just questioning stuff. You can even question the videos I do. But I feel like we're at a time in the world where it's really important that we question the shoulds of the world and reevaluate whether they're actually as useful or valuable or needed as we're sometimes convinced they are. So if you like that kind of stuff, you like to have deep conversations, I'm the girl for you. Please subscribe. If you want to get a little more personal, I have a newsletter that I put out a couple of times a month. You can go to stephaniedanger.com and sign up for it there. And as a reminder, my next live will be on Wednesday, August 30th at 5 p.m. Send questions if you have any. If not, it'll just be me and the black hole of the internet. Love you.